Hello, everyone. Welcome. Close my door there. Thanks for joining us. Nice to have you all with us tonight, or this afternoon, or tomorrow, depending on where you are. If you want to introduce yourselves in the chat, go ahead. We like to know where everyone's from and what brought you here. And we'll be getting started in just a couple minutes. And enjoy the video while you're waiting. There, for those new just coming in from the waiting room, welcome. If you want to introduce yourself in the chat, feel free. We enjoy getting to know where everyone's from, what brought you here. Just a couple of notes. We will ask everyone if you can make sure you stay muted during the presentation, just for clarity and no interruptions and all that good stuff. We'd appreciate that. But feel free to use the chat if you have any questions or thoughts that come up. If we can, we'll try to address them during, and if not, we're usually able to stay on for a little while afterwards and chat with people and discuss. So if we aren't able to address it during, hang out till the end, and we'll be able to talk a little more at the end. We will have a survey link that we'll be putting in the chat. We'll put it in once near the beginning and then a couple times for the end. So if you have any questions or any other information you're looking for, we'll be able to help you out with that. So that is most of sort of our little housekeeping announcements. Sure, got everyone coming in. All right, looks like probably getting pretty close. So we will go ahead and get started here in just a minute or so. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. I recognize a few of everyone's names from the past, so thank you for coming again. We enjoy seeing our returning friends. So. So again, yes, feel free to use the chat. For those who have just come in from the waiting room, feel free to use the chat. Introduce yourself if you like. If you have any questions, feel free to use it to drop those questions in there, and we'll try to address them during if there's a good place. And if not, we'll hold on to it till the end. And at the end, we have a small enough group. So at the end, if anybody wants to bring up a question, you're welcome to just unmute and say what you have on your mind. So I think we'll probably go ahead and get started. And I'll turn it over to Michael, our executive director, for those of you who haven't gotten to meet Michael yet, and hope you enjoy the presentation tonight. Canada. Excellent. Nice to have you. Chicago. Yes. What makes us who we are and why we act the way we do. It is definitely sounds simple, but it's not always. All right. All right. Well, I think we're ready to go, Michael. So you can go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Okay, good evening, everyone. What you see here on this slide is a book called Nonviolent Communication, and it's a book that is a key part of the work that we do. It's been our inspiration, and you can see the information on there. Puddle Dancer Press, if you're so inspired and you want to buy the book directly from the publisher instead of a giant conglomerate whose name I won't mention, well, go right ahead. Okay, so most of us don't think of ourselves as violent people. We associate with violence with wars and beatings and killings. But what about our words? Don't most fights begin with words such as what's wrong with you, putting, when you put someone down, judging them, snide remarks. How about making fun? I was just making fun. Well, making fun is not fun. Tonight, we're going to introduce the basics of nonviolent communication, and it's a very powerful communication skill set. And the objective of this presentation is to introduce the essential elements of NVC, as we call it, and to do a few short practices of what we think is a revolutionary way of thinking and speaking. It's a way to think and speak that is actually very simple, and it's a practice. So as children, we modeled the adults in our lives and our society's norms. Some of us may wish to explore a new model other than the one we observed and grew up in. What drove me to learn this work is the thought, what would my life have been like if I had this communication model growing up? What if I had been given a relationship roadmap? I believe you'll see that NVC is like a relationship roadmap, and we'll be demonstrating how it has the potential to be a tipping point in human behavior. Here you see, for those of you who are into sports of sorts, although this person is very well known, is Roger Bannister. He was a medical student who was also a runner, and he was trying to break the 4-minute mile record and to run under 4 minutes. And with heavy cleated shoes, he managed to do that on May 6th of 1954. And the next week, several people broke the record, and today something like 1,500 people have broken it, and some quite extensively. So that was a tipping point. Once one person did it, then many more people did it. And we think that's something that's really possible with NVC. As we do it, we believe this work will spread. So before we go into the NVC principles, you saw the fish at the beginning of the event. We've all seen fish in schools. We've seen more flocks of birds. Well, how do they communicate? Is it possible for people to be as a flock where there's no leader and everyone leads? Well, NVC is like a human signaling device where there is no leader and everyone leads. And it also engenders empathic listening, deep listening. Okay, Cicely will give you a little more background on our program, and then we'll continue.
Yeah. Well, we'd just like to give everyone a little background just to see some of the possibilities of where this work can really be applied. PRF has been introducing our Healthy Relationships program in schools since 2008. And since then, we've been working with hospitals, businesses, organizations of all kinds of social service organizations, including some that even work with incarcerated people. We also work with parent associations, homeschool groups, you name it. So here you can see our email address, info@trf.net. We'll show this again at the end in case anybody wants to contact us for anything. We also do above and beyond what we'll hear tonight in this webinar, because really these are just kind of a little introductory taste of how much there is to learn on this subject. So we also several times a year hold smaller group workshops where we have a more limited number of people. They're usually a 2-part workshop you can sign up for. Our next ones are going to be on June 3rd and 10th. It's a Thursday evening. So if this is your first time joining our webinar, and then you find that you enjoy it, we'd love to definitely see you again there. We do have a private Facebook group just for those who kind of want to network with like-minded people. You can see the name there, and in the survey that we'll be putting in the chat, it'll have the direct link to that if you're interested in joining that. We are also on Patreon, because now that we are asking for donations just to help support the webinar series, a way to bypass having to register and donate $1 every time. You can join our Patreon, and then you can get immediate access to the webinars without having to register. So that's one of the nice little perks of that. And you can also then get a discount if you decide to sign up for that group in June, you'd be able to get a discount on our workshops and our school curriculum and all kinds of things like that. So, and also thank you to everyone who donated for their tickets tonight. It's support like that lets us continue this webinar series. So we really do appreciate it. And so that's it for that. I'll turn it back over to Michael.
Okay. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind putting your your name or what city or town or country you're from in the chat. We always like to know who's joined us. Okay, so here you see the world of conflict. Look at a newspaper, turn on the internet, the radio, the TV. What do you see? So much violence. And this prevalence of violence really contributes a lot to bullying behaviors. And we do a lot of work with schools. Most of our work is in schools, as a matter of fact. So this bullying behavior is something that's gotten worse and worse. And I think it has a lot to do with media and unfortunately with some of our national leaders and the behavior that they are exhibiting. And, since Columbine, there's been 230 shootings. And there's a backstory some of you may not know. Darren Klebold, who was one of the shooters, he was a kind of goth kid, but he was also very studious. And he was on the debating team, and he won a trophy at the state level. And when he went on the stage to receive his award, the football team booed him. Now, here was a kid who was already on the edge. We can call that a bullying of sort. Well, I think I don't have to tell everybody what happened. So this is something that we really believe the nonviolent communication work can really dramatically reduce this kind of bullying. And in fact, we've seen it because we have students in the programs that we teach in schools keep journals on how they perceive the nonviolent communication work. And my conditioning from an early age was to judge, to blame and shame, and not unlike those football players, but this behavior became an encoding in my subconscious system. It's like judging hijacked my brain, and it created an anxious persona, stressed, reactive facade, and I was often getting upset for no reason. And this is the reality many of us live in. Well, I don't want to live in this world anymore. And we see so much conflict today between nations, within our country, within our communities and families, and we will illustrate how a different worldview can give you a broader perspective. So these are the essential building blocks of nonviolent communication. We'll go into that in a moment. We don't see ourselves as violent people, but what about the words that create conflict? As I said, what's wrong with you? That was stupid. Many of us have learned to speak aggressively, and aggressive words lead to aggressive actions. I'm tired of conflict. So tonight, we'll show you how NVC can reduce conflict. And the work we do is not conflict resolution, we do conflict prevention. So hopefully there'll be no resolution to enact because there'll be so much less conflict. And before the end of the presentation, you'll have an aha experience of this. Now, here are the essential elements of nonviolent communication. Very briefly, observation is the opposite of judgment and evaluation. So many of us struggle to observe instead of judge. It's called being objective. I don't know about you, but I judge all day long, and especially about myself. So in NVC, one of the goals of observation is to reduce the judgment. And observation is a practice that can free us from incessant judging. And you'll see an example of it when we do an exercise toward the end of the program. Again, you see requests. We'll be talking about requests and observation in a workshop we're going to be doing in June, and Cicely will tell you more about that in a little bit. But demands. What are demands? What are requests? Well, demands are things like sweep the hallway, do the dishes. Those are demands. I want those done right now. In NVC, you might want to ask, would you be willing to sweep the hallway? I want you to work this weekend. Would you be willing to work this weekend? So this gives you an idea of the difference, and it's really important when you get a sense of what the difference is between demands and requests. And we'll go into them again, as I said, in June. But tonight, we're going to focus on needs and feelings. Here's the needs list, and this was sent out to everybody, but it's also in the chat. So what needs are essential in schools and organization? Take a look at your list. We work a lot in schools, so obviously learning is one of the needs that teachers have, students have. How about competence, discovery, creativity, growth, community? How about needs for families and couples? Acceptance, affection, appreciation, companionship, empathy, love, intimacy. So these are essential sort of universal needs, and you see them there on the slide. But we use the word need in our everyday language. I need to get into my car and take off. I need to get a new computer. I need a vacation. Do you see computer on this list or vacation? No, but we use this all the time. Use the word need. So if you could take a piece of paper, if you have one handy, pick 3 to 5 needs that might be met by coming to this workshop, and you could name more than 5. So we laminate the needs and feelings list. You might have come to this tonight to meet your need for discovery, to meet your need for growth, for learning, maybe participation, because we're going to share at the end of we're going to have an open discussion at the end. And so just give yourself a moment, see what needs are important. Maybe communication. Maybe there's something about tonight that will support you in communication that is more fulfilling. Could be stimulation. Might even be hope. Now take another few seconds to make that list. Now, think about, again, 3 to 5 needs that could be met in any of the relationships that you have. Friends, family, students, co-workers, significant other. And you can list more than 5. So I also do relationship coaching. And some of the needs that I ask the couples to think about are companionship, partnership, intimacy, friendship, empathy, beauty, peace of mind, belonging, affection, appreciation. We know all these words, but it's rare that we identify them in terms of the relationships that are important to us. You might have put a family member down, so you might have a need for adventure and play and relaxation together. So the act of writing down your needs is a practice, just like you would practice a sport or a language or a musical instrument. After a while, it becomes more familiar and you get better at it. So what do you call someone that doesn't have any needs? If you would put something in the chat, what do you call someone that doesn't have any needs? People pleaser, altruist, non-human, narcissist. Okay, well, if you look in the middle of the list, you see physical well-being, air, food, water, shelter, rest. So someone wrote dead. Yeah. If you have no needs, you're dead. So needs are about life. They're about things we value. So if you think about it, everything we've ever done and everything we ever will do and everything we're doing right now is to meet a need, because we're breathing and we're learning, we're experiencing meeting our needs. So expressing needs is not a common way to communicate. We don't go to a performance and when something makes us laugh, we don't say to our friend, that really met my need for humor. We say that was funny, but it was actually meeting a need for humor. Our main need for doing this work is to meet a need for contribution. Is contribution one of your needs that gets met, say, by your job, or maybe volunteering, or simply helping a neighbor? But we're not used to communicating in terms of our needs, but we're constantly seeking to meet them. So in our school program, we have students keep journals on how they perceive their needs and feelings in any kind of relationship. And now we're going to look at feelings. What are they? Well, we use again the word feeling in our everyday language. I feel like having some pizza. I feel like taking a walk. I feel like going to a movie. We use feel in our everyday language. So next you see a list of what we call feelings associated with met needs. So the reason we call these feelings, that's a long phrase, associated with met needs, is because we don't call them good, because what's good to one person is not necessarily good to another person. So we call them feelings associated with met needs. So for instance, when you get the last parking space, how do you feel? Take a look at your feelings list. Maybe you feel relieved. Maybe you feel grateful, satisfied. So we're getting used to identifying what we're feeling. How do you feel when you accomplish a task with a deadline? How about when you get tickets to a concert that you've been waiting a long time to go to? All right, in the next slide, we're going to see feelings associated with unmet needs. Now, using the same feelings list, how do you feel when you don't get the last parking spot? Take a moment, see how many feelings you have. If you like, put some of your feelings into the chat. How do you feel when you don't accomplish a task with a deadline? Or you don't get the tickets to that concert you've been waiting for? Next, we're going to talk about something that is not, again, in our everyday vocabulary. They're called non-feelings. Well, non-feelings are not feelings. They're blaming words and they're conflict starters. So when I say to someone, I feel ignored, I felt ignored by you, what am I saying to that person? They are someone that ignores people. What if I say, I really feel disrespected when you did this or did that? I'm calling that person someone who disrespects other people. So if I'm feeling ignored, I might be feeling anxious. I might be feeling distressed. I might be feeling miserable. I might be feeling unhappy. I might be feeling anger. I could be feeling frustrated. So there's many different feelings that you can identify when you say you're experiencing being ignored, rather than saying, I feel ignored. Same thing, I feel disrespected. Well, what's the feeling? I don't know what someone feels when they say they feel disrespected. Are they also probably upset and they might be resentful and outraged? It can be many different feelings. So getting familiar with this list of needs and feelings increases our vocabulary so people are clear what the feeling is, and there's a way to say how you're feeling without making the person wrong. the blaming and the judging that we've been talking about since the beginning. So we'll learn more about non-feelings again in our June 3rd and June 10th workshop, which are a combined 2-day workshop. Okay, now we come to a very interesting part of NVC, strategies. Everything we do is to meet a need, and we have a strategy to meet our needs. So why are you here today? You're meeting certain needs. We asked everyone to look at their needs, such as learning and growth and discovery. So being here is meeting a need. If you're scratching your cheek, oh, well, that's meeting a need for comfort. Everything has a strategy, and every strategy is a strategy to meet a need. Now, if you have a car, and I ask that because I live in New York and I have lots of cars, but there's subway cars and there's hundreds of them. So, but I ride my bike most of the time. But anyway, I'm guessing just about everybody may have been at one point or another cut off in a car. So what do you do when somebody cuts you off? You drive up next to them, roll down your window and say, "That didn't meet my need for safety and stability." No. Say, "You idiot," or some other words that I won't say right now. Right, well, maybe that person has a strategy to meet their needs, and that includes driving fast, getting too close to you. But why have they gotten too close to you? What happened? Well, maybe they're rushing to pick up their child at a school and the lights have gone off. And maybe that person who cut you off saved somebody's life a week ago. And maybe that person is like a well-known in their neighborhood and raises funds for community organizations. You know, are they an idiot? So the NVC it helps us to stop and look at like our judgments. And a lot of our judgments are what? They're knee-jerk judgments. Boom. Somebody says or does something we don't like, and we have this judgment for them. Now, I ride my bicycle, a city bike in New York, and taxis often get close to me. Well, I used to ride up to them and shake my fist. "Hey, you want to kill somebody? Oh, great, go ahead, hit me. I need the insurance." But suppose that cab driver is rushing to get to a hospital to somebody who's about to give birth. Maybe give birth to someone who is a future world leader. Are they my judgments? And what happens now is my judgments are still going, but they're in my head. I'm thinking them. And now with the NVC in my veins, I ask myself, what was that? Well, we want to get this work into schools, and this is why we ask for donations, because it helps us get our program into more schools. But we want to get kids familiar with this work at an early age. And some of you may know that a child can learn multiple languages, sometimes 5 or 6 languages before they're 6 years old. So imagine them learning this language of needs and feelings and be able to express it respectfully and in a way that meets their need for connection. Imagine children, because their prefrontal cortex, the so-called executive function of the brain, reasoning, logic, planning, concentration, all of these are still forming when a child is very young. And that's why this information can go in very deep. So as I said, our thinking is very powerfully conditioned. And how can a lifetime of habitual thinking that's constantly judging change? Practice expressing needs and feelings without blame and judgment. And we'll do a final exercise and a practice to explore needs and feelings. It's called the T exercise. So if everyone could take a sheet of paper and put a T on it. And in the next slide, you'll see it'll be a T where you'll leave a little room at the top. And what you're going to write is something that annoyed or disappointed you. So take a moment. Something that annoyed or disappointed, not something tragic. So for me, when I first did this exercise, Someone said to me, "Why do you waste so much time?" And we have a nonprofit, and that was one of our board members. And so that's the example I use. But you could use something like "get over it." There's many different things that you can use and think of. What is something that annoyed or disappointed you? Put that at the top of the T. Okay, on the left side, write the word feelings. And look at your feelings list, and we'll go to the feelings list now. What feelings did you have? These are feelings associated with unmet needs. How did you feel? When this person said or did something that annoyed or disappointed you? Now go to the right side of your T and put the word needs. And let's go to the needs list. What needs did you have that were not met when this person said or did something that you didn't like? Now, please draw a line underneath those needs and feelings and write the word feelings on the left side again. What we're going to do now is we're going to guess. We're going to guess what was that person who said or did something that annoyed or disappointed you, what were they feeling? Even if you never want to see this person again, you don't have any contact with them, or it's somebody you're going to see tomorrow, you're going to guess, well, wonder what were they feeling? This is something, of course, we rarely do. You're going to guess, you're going to imagine. I'm wondering if they were feeling, and look at your feelings list. You might be thinking, I don't know what they were feeling. I just know I didn't like it, or whatever your judgments are. But so you're guessing. And now on the right side, put the word needs again. what needs do you think that person had when they said or did something that you didn't appreciate or that annoyed you? What could they possibly have needed? All right, let's imagine a line from 0 to 100%. Would you put into the chat how much more of an understanding you might have had by doing this exercise? Was it 2%? Maybe it was 50%. Think about how much more do you have a sense of understanding of what that person was saying or doing that annoyed or disappointed you? Okay, good. Well, some people had different percentages, all the way up to 80%. And it's kind of like it lifts a bit of a weight off your shoulders. And what it does, what NVC does, it creates, as you'll see in the next slide, by one of our slides are mostly designed by Cicely. Thank you very much. We have always have a new look. And so there's the world of greater possibility. So that person who said or did something they shouldn't have done, and what's wrong with them, and the blaming and the shaming. Now we have a little different perspective. And you can put these skills into practice with the people in your life. You can really start it now. And if you join us in June for our small group workshop, you'll learn even more skills like this. We do an empathy practice that's quite eye-opening. And that's all involved. And we do 2.5-hour sessions on, I believe it's on a Thursday night. So judgment is an addiction. And non-judgment actually brings us into the generous present moment. And we can literally create a new identity by taking attention off what's wrong with others, and it's a practice. And making a person wrong is actually a survival mechanism. But with nonviolent communication, we can actually design a new destiny. And we believe in human potential, and we believe NVC is a key element of that. So we say humans are a marvel of adaptability and change. And in this work, there is the potential for all of us to break free of the chains, from the chains of our conditioning. And there's a potential for all of us to develop a genius mind. And NVC is a path to that. We consider NVC part of the so-called social and emotional learning. But what we call this is not only social learning and emotional learning, but it's loving learning. So thanks, everybody. And Cicely has a little bit more to share with you about the work we do and what work is coming up, and then we'll open up for some conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to put in the chat our survey. So if anybody needs more information, we didn't address it here. You can get more on that. On the next slide, I believe, is just kind of the review of like our webinars, just like right now. This is our usual schedule, sort of how we do our intro webinars. We do one on trauma on the second Tuesday of the month, and then the one on NVC empathy, like this tonight, this on the last Tuesday. And then like we said, the small groups, where we really are able to dig in sort of to what we talked about here tonight. The next one is in June. The next one after that will probably be in August. I'm going to guess. We haven't set dates for that one, but if the June one doesn't work for you, now that you've attended a webinar, you'll be on our newsletter, so we'll be able to so you'll see the news of any upcoming ones if the one in June doesn't work for you. And also, you know, if price is an issue for anybody, we definitely want to help as much as we can, no matter what. We occasionally do have, through donations from some of our donors, we do have seats in the cohort small groups available at a discount, just kind of all depending on funding at the moment. But you can definitely send me an email or send us an email, and we'll see what we can do. And on the next page is just a little bit more information on our school and organization workshops that we do. Again, very similar to what we're doing here tonight, but just more. So if you have a really large group, you know, large number of employees or faculty of a school, it really, because like you've probably seen, it applies everywhere. So there's really no limit to where the work can be applied. So we have stuff for all budgets, all types of organizations. And again, we want to get the work out to anybody, so just let us know and we will figure something out. So you can probably see my email there on the bottom. That's my email. If you wanted to get in touch with Michael, his email is the same, just michael@trf.net. And then again, on the last slide is our main email is the info@trf.net. So if you remember one of those, you can get in touch with us. Oh yeah, let me put the survey in the chat, just so then if anybody wants to get any other information, give us some feedback. We love hearing what you thought about things. So that was the link I just put in the chat, and I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, if anybody has any comments or wants to stay on and talk, we are here. So feel free to unmute and say what you got on your mind.
Yeah, we always enjoy when people put on your video now, and unless you're still having dinner, yeah, put on your video. Any comments or questions anyone might have, feel free.